Hey guys, Rami here from Pedestrian Wanderlust. I want to thank you all for supporting the project and following us. And it's been a little over a year now that we've been making these videos, just recently hosting these improv jams. And so today's video is all about the origin of Pedestrian Wanderlust and kind of remembering how it all began. So for those that don't know, the project started on March 8th, 2016, and it started totally on impulse. So I was walking through the West Village with my girlfriend, my best friend at the time, or not at the time, still, Erin Robin, who was the first Pedestrian Wanderlust dancer. And the way it happened was we passed Gay Street, and I was like, oh, this is a really beautiful street. It's just charming. I want to film something here. And I had just downloaded the Hyperlapse app that day, and I wanted to play around with it. So I asked Erin, I was like, hey Erin, just to have some kind of content on this street, to make a video, will you go down to the end of the street and improvise from the end towards me? And he says, sure. So, I remember we waited for like 15 minutes because there was a car in our way, and we were like, oh, we're just gonna wait for this car to get out of here. We waited for 15 minutes for this car to finally pull out, and then we made it happen. So he went to the end of the street, and I just stayed still. At the end of the street, there was no movement, as you see in the videos now, and he improvised towards me, and it was a short 45-second video, and I was just so captivated by it. I could not stop watching it for the rest of the day. Between who I knew Erin to be and how his dancing perfectly reflected that, and there was something magical about that, in that, when you dance, you give of yourself, you show who you are, and it's kind of like everyone has their unique movement identity that is so unique to them, like a fingerprint. And so that was pretty interesting for me, knowing who Erin was already and how well I thought his movement kind of translated who he was as a person. I thought that anyone just watching that video could get an idea, more or less, not of anything that would separate him, like his views on anything, but just at a very primal, raw level, just kind of who he was, how he felt about himself and the world around him, and the freedom and openness he had. There was something notable there. Beyond that, just the charm of the street, and him responding to that and being inspired by that, but also the people that were just walking by, kind of not even turning their heads to look. There was something interesting about that, and I'm not sure if that's just New York City, where everyone has this tunnel vision that they're going from point A to point B, and anything else that's happening, as long as it's not getting in their way, is not something that's going to distract them. But anyway, so we made another video that same day, and it was the same effect. I was like, wow, this is amazing. This whole just improvising in public, and I feel like as dancers, we spend so much time, sometimes up to 6 months or a year in the studio working to, create something, and I've always been a little, I don't know, I just thought we could make beautiful things quicker, we can make things happen. And with improv, it's interesting because you get this kind of immediate magic of just what's coming out of you. It's kind of like the dance version of Inception, where you're creating and experiencing at the same time. So I decided that day I needed to do this with more dancers in more places, and came up with the name Pedestrian Wanderlust that night, started the blog that night. And then since then, we started the whole video portrait series, and it snowballed into what it is. I started moving a little bit more with the camera and playing around with my own approach as a videographer, and just being inspired by every single dancer that I worked with, and now it's really turned into this movement where we have the improv jams that we host once a month, inviting the community to come and take part, and really bringing the community together through dance. So it's always interesting for me to look back and just remember how it all happened, on just such a weird impulse. And I think the one takeaway I have from that is it really taught me to just start. When inspiration strikes, take hold of it, because it's never gonna grab you the same way again. So, I feel like there's a lot of times with certain endeavors that we might have where, you know, we wait for it to be perfect. We wait for the idea to be fully formed. And in that sense, you know, it'll sit on the back burner and then it just dies. So, you know, just starting somewhere, not being worried about what it'll be, you know, don't create and analyze at the same time because they're different processes, and just have fun. So yeah, that's a little bit about Pedestrian Wanderlust. Keep following the project. Follow us on Instagram if you're not already, at Pedestrian Wanderlust, and we'll keep these videos coming. Thanks, guys.